Okay, so now we are being recorded. Thank you for your patience. Again, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a quick overview of myself, my background, what I do, how I do it, talk a little bit about the frequently asked questions in regards to franchising, hopefully open up your mind and understanding of what franchising is all about and what types of opportunities may be out there that might be interesting for you. And then again, the next steps in regards to what would happen from here if you should decide that you want to learn more about franchising and see what opportunities might be available for you. So to start with, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Alex Roberts. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I've been in Michigan almost all my life, besides a stint in my early 20s when I got around to a few different spots. As a franchise consultant, I work with people like you that are contemplating what they're going to do in the next stage of their career. Many people are looking to take control of their lives, have more flexibility in their life. They're tired of making money for other people and organizations, and want to make it for themselves going forward. When you have a job, you can't sell that job to somebody else when you leave. But when you have a business and you build equity in that business, you have an asset that you're able to sell. It's a great thing to have as well. And so I get a ton of joy out of working with people and helping place them into franchise companies that are a great fit for them, that are going to provide them with the goals that they're looking to achieve from a financial standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, from a building of wealth and equity standpoint. So, I've been through this myself. Over the last 15 years of my career, I've been in franchising in many different forms and fashions. I've worked with every different type of concept, from home service related concepts to retail brick and mortar companies in the food industry, in the fitness industry. As I mentioned, home services is where I spent the bulk of my career as well. So a lot of dull, normal businesses, as I call them, that aren't very interesting or sexy in regards to the product or service that you're providing, but extremely appealing when you look at the return on investment and the joys of business ownership. So besides what I do as a franchise consultant, my first priority is my family. That's why I have pictures of them up here. I'm a husband and a father. Both my kids are in high school. I'm able to go to all of their sporting events, their school plays, their graduations, all the things that over a certain period of my life I was missing a lot of these things when I would travel 8 to 10 days a month in my previous careers, and would miss a lot of these items. The quality of life was really important to me, and that's a big reason why I got directed into franchising, and have enjoyed every minute of it as a franchisee and a franchisor and an executive with several different franchise companies. And so, again, my goal is to help others experience the rewards that franchising has to offer, and a big part of it is, begins with the education and what we're doing today. So really, what do I want from you guys? Ultimately, I would love for you to become a business owner. I'm a firm believer in the franchising model, and feel that it's the ideal transition to go from employment to business ownership. A lot of people, have built up a very strong business acumen and leadership skills and management skills and communication skills, throughout their careers in corporate America. And, at a certain stage or a certain point in your life, you put in a position where you have an opportunity to make a change. Sometimes it's, something that you initiated yourself. Other times it's not initiated by you. Sometimes a downsizing or a separation with a company may look like a very difficult thing to deal with, and it always is, and I've been there. But it also opens up doors and opportunities for you to look at other things. Sometimes that's just the push that some people needed to take a look at the opportunities that are out there in business ownership. So what I want to do is be your bridge to help you get from that employee position that you may be in now or were in, into the owner, business owner position. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today, and how I can help you. All right. So again, the main things that I'm going to cover today are some of the most frequently asked questions as it relates to franchising, and then talk to you again about what I do and how I do it. But franchising is a huge business. There's over 3,000 registered franchise companies in the United States, and the amount of companies that are out there, if you start looking on the internet and trying to figure out, company A from company B, it can get very confusing very fast, and the vast majority of franchise companies that are out there are never going to get over 25 to 30 units, and that's a reality. You got a lot of people that have a business and think that it's franchisable, and they go and get an FDD and put all the legal things in place, and voila, they're a franchisor. But they don't have the infrastructure in place to build and grow a franchise system. They might know how to run a great coffee shop or a salon or whatever their business might be that they want to franchise, but there's a very distinct difference between being a franchisor and being a business owner in whatever industry you're in. And so what I do as a franchise consultant is I help you weed out those companies that don't have the strong financial resources behind them, that don't have an experienced franchise executive team that's built and grown large franchise systems in the past, that don't have the vendor relationships in place to help you acquire all the materials and equipment and everything you need at bulk discount buying power and all the different advantages of franchising. So again, the whole point here is to take this huge ocean of franchise opportunities out there and bring it down to a much smaller pool or pond, if you will, of the best franchises that are available, for people. So to get into some of these questions, first of all, the first thing people ask me all the time is, well, of course, franchising is all about Subway and McDonald's and Pizza Hut and KFC and Taco Bell, and we all know those brand names. Absolutely, fast food is one of the biggest categories in franchising, and they've all built thousands of brands or thousands of units across these different brands. But thank goodness, as I mentioned, there's 3,000 different franchise opportunities out there. And of course, the vast majority of them are not food related. And that's a good thing, as I mentioned, because food concepts can be very difficult to run and very low margin type businesses, especially when you have people that don't have experience in the food industry. So what I want to share with you is a little bit more about what else is out there besides food. And again, food might be right for some of you. That's great, but for most people, it's a very difficult industry to be in. So I want to talk about some of the other categories. So I'm going to begin with automotive. Automotive is one of those industries that again, we all live in Michigan. We know that the Motor City in Detroit here, the automotive industry has driven our economy for years, and this is something that's not going away. Even with automated cars, the self-driving cars that are being tested and everything else, they all still have transmissions and brakes and gears and all the different things that need to be maintained on vehicles. But anyway, the auto industry is one that there's just a huge opportunity in, and there's again, some of the brands you may be familiar with, from Meineke and Maaco and Jiffy Lube, you name it. There's a plethora of different opportunities in the automotive industry. And again, what I want to make clear too with people is all of these industries, you don't have to know how to do any of these things, to be a business owner in them. You don't have to know, how to change the oil in the car to own a Jiffy Lube franchise. The best Jiffy Lube franchisees are not in the garage changing oil. Trust me, none of the owners are in there. They're running the business. They're doing the marketing and the advertising and the financials. They're hiring their managers and managing the managers and the key metrics in the business. They're building a culture that the employees want to work at, and delivering exceptional customer service through communicating with their clients and that. So the role of the owner is very different than the actual widget or product or service that your business is providing. So it's something I want to make clear here in the beginning about all of these different categories. Okay, business to business type stores, the next category here. A couple of examples are the fast signs, Image 360. There's a lot of different sign type shops. Visual marketing, visual graphics are huge in our world today. Vehicle wraps and the sort. JanPro, which is commercial cleaning, Money Mailer, direct mail, direct mail companies, UPS stores. These are all business services that primarily call on B2B type clients. Then the fitness category. The fitness industry is one that every year when you see the Entrepreneur Magazine and the Franchise 500 and all the different lists that are out there in franchising, they talk about what's hot. What's hot in franchising. Every year, fitness is on these categories, and you always think, oh my gosh, how can it always be out there? Well, again, we've got a big obesity problem in our country. We have huge opportunity, for people that want to be more active and physically fit and take care of themselves and their lives. So fitness every year continues to thrive, and the niche in fitness right now that's extremely popular is what's called boutique fitness, and it's the small group fitness. It's trainer-led, accountability, motivation, results. Is what people want to get out of fitness. But anyway, fitness is also one of the big categories there. Healthcare, another industry. This one again is something that in today's world, the aging baby boomers, the largest population in our country and the largest growing. Over 10,000 people each day will reach age 65. So that just creates a huge opportunity in the business world for businesses that focus on that demographic. A couple of examples here: Miracle Ear, Doctors Express, Right at Home, in-home medical, non-medical type of care, patient care, and that are again a lot of different opportunities and great companies in these spaces. Home services, people's biggest investments are their homes. So, of course, they're going to spend money and invest money to maintain and improve, their largest asset. So, the home services companies like Molly Maid, ServPro is a restoration company, California Closets, organizing your closets, handyman services, painting services, you name it. There are incredible franchise systems out there that help you gain incredible market share and very strong businesses in the home services category. And then personal care is another category I wanted to touch on. Health and wellness and beauty, is another area that continues to thrive. Everything from the massage category. In the past, massages were reserved for the high-end resorts and the vacation areas. Well, Massage Envy brought massage to the neighborhood and made it affordable and accessible to everybody. Now they have 1,200 units across the country that are providing massage, for the everyday client. And then, of course, along comes Hand and Stone and Elements Therapeutic Massage and Massage Heights, and there's 5 other massage category franchises out there as well that have hundreds of units. So that's just an example of a personal care type business that that is doing very well. Supercuts, hair care, Great Clips, Fantastic Sam's. The hair industry is one that is super recession resistant. Hair grows even during a recession, right? And so again, these are some of the key categories I wanted to just touch on that may help open your eyes to understand that franchising is more than just the brick and mortar food locations that are out there. Okay. So before I get to some more of the specifics about franchising, I always want to address this question right out of the gate. Because people, the first question I always get asked by people is, how much money can I make in franchising? And we all know this is one of the most important questions that needs to be answered, right? Anytime you get into a business, the bottom line is certainly income, building wealth and equity, and that's a very important question that needs to be answered. But there are a couple of other things that you need to take into consideration as well when you talk about how much money can I make. And the other one that I always want to make sure you understand is, besides how much, it's how fast. How fast can I make it? Again, these are the questions that absolutely come up whenever anybody is new to franchising and trying to understand what type of opportunity is out there. So to break these two questions down, the first one in terms of the how much can I make, of course it's going to vary, right? So there is no specific question or answer to tell you that, you're going to make $100,000 a year if you become a franchisee. Is it likely? Absolutely. If you choose the right business and you execute that model, properly, these types of opportunities are absolutely out there. There's a lot of franchise businesses where you're going to be able to make, $50,000 or more, in a single unit operating that business. There's also a huge group of franchises that are going to get you to that six-figure plus income as well. And then there's that select few that, are going to produce $250,000 or more in profit out of a single unit. And there's, some incredibly scalable businesses out there. Again, dull normal businesses that you may never have even imagined that are producing, $200,000, $300,000 in income for their franchisees out of a single unit. So again, my goal is to understand what your financial needs are, what your investment resources are, and to help match you with these companies that are going to help provide these types of opportunities. But again, the way that you build more income, and this is always one of the things that I like to share with folks out of the beginning, is the real secret to building more revenue, more income is multi-unit operations, and that's where you buy the rights to develop 3 stores or 3 units of one concept over a development time period. It might be a 3-year time period that you open up a store a year for 3 years in a certain system. Or if it's a territory-based business, that you open up, one geographic area, to begin with, and then you expand into a second territory and increase your revenue that way through adding additional units in the business. But that's also, again, a way that most franchisees scale and grow their businesses, by adding additional units or territories. As far as learning about the income potential in a franchise, the franchise disclosure document, or FDD, is a document that every franchise company needs to provide to every interested franchisee candidate. Okay, it's kind of like a prospectus, if you will. It explains what the relationship is between the franchisor and the franchisee. It outlines all of the expenses involved in getting started in this franchise, what it takes to get a unit up and running. It goes through the background of the executive team in the company. It goes through any litigation that they might have, if they have any lawsuits that are going on in their system, if they're suing franchisees, if franchisees are suing them. That all needs to be disclosed. And this whole document is designed for your protection. We want franchise candidates to be able to understand and know everything that they're going to be entering into with the franchisor, and it's the same for everybody. That franchise disclosure document outlines all the costs, the royalty involved, in what you pay back to the franchisor, what any fees are if you have any technology fees or software fees that you pay, any vendors or suppliers that you need to work with to provide, to buy product or services from. All that stuff is shared in the FDD, but everybody gets the same deal. Every franchisee is operating under the same clauses and structure of the franchisee next to them, or in another city or another state, which is wonderful. That it's not like you can negotiate a better deal in one place or another. It's consistent throughout, and that disclosure document assures that by sharing what all those terms are. So that's something you'll get into in more detail if you choose to look at franchising in more specifically. The FDD is the most important document that you'll receive from a franchisor to help you understand, again, what your commitments are as a franchisee and what the franchisor's commitments are to you as a franchisee as well. Okay, and then the other piece is the most information that you get about the franchise earnings is when you talk to the existing franchisees in that system. So let's just take, for example, if you're looking at Molly Maid, one of the examples on the previous sheet, the FDD is going to show you what, in item 19 of the FDD is where they can show financial performance representations. They're going to show you that the average franchisee is doing $1.2 million in sales, that the average profit margin is 23%, And again, right now I'm making these numbers up off the top of my head, so please don't take these as as these are specific, but they are very, very in that ballpark. But again, the franchisor is the one that needs to provide all that information to you. That's not my job to provide that to you as the consultant. Each franchise company needs to provide that to you, so I just want to clear that up. But anyway, where I'm going here is that the FDD is going to show you specific information about the financial performances of their system, but your conversations with the existing franchisees is going to be the most important information. You get to call the franchisees and say, okay, Joe, how are you doing with your Molly Maid? What did what was your total investment to get this business started? Did it fall within the range of the FDD? What was your first year sales? What were your second year sales? How about year 3? What's your projections for year 4? What do you see your business capping out at before you need to invest in a second territory? All those types of questions are acceptable, not only acceptable, but they're really required for you to go through in order to get the information you need to make an educated and informed decision on whether or not this franchise is going to help you provide not only the financial rewards you're looking for, but also learning about the role of the owner. What do you do every day? What is it that that are the biggest challenges in the business? What are the biggest rewards? If you could do it over again, would you? Those are all great questions that come out in the validation. But the main thing you're always trying to get at is how much money can I make, and how fast can I make it? And those are the validation stage is where a lot of that information comes. On the how fast can I make it piece, I always like to call attention to this as well, because it really depends on what type of model you get into in terms of the ramp-up period. So when you look at a business that you as the owner are going to be the owner-operator, and you're going to be essentially that general manager that's going to be working day-to-day in the business, you're going to start making money faster than a business model where you have to hire a manager that's running the day-to-day operations, and you're paying them $35,000 to $50,000 a year to manage your business. So obviously, owner-operator models ramp up faster than manager-run models. Same thing on the service versus retail side of things. A service business like a Molly Maid, you can be in business in 2 months after you sign your franchise agreement. You go through the training and all the organizational setup, and then your marketing is hitting and you're launching for business. So you're now generating revenue 2 months after you sign the franchise agreement. With a retail-based business where you've got to go out and find the real estate, work with the real estate department of that franchisor to locate the real estate, negotiate a lease, do the permitting, the construction, all the build-out, equipment, inventory, whatever it might be. It's typically 7 to 9 months from the time you sign your agreement until the time you're actually open up for business. So that's something that affects how fast you can make it. So if you're in a position where it doesn't matter, you can float yourself for 12 to 18 months before you need to worry about bringing in income. Retail-based and real estate-based locations are absolutely something you might want to look at in the mix. If you're in a situation where, hey, I need to start generating revenue quicker because I need to put food on the table and pay the mortgage and all that, looking at service-based businesses or B2B type businesses that don't require the real estate location is going to be a lot faster ramp up. And the same thing, the business to consumer versus business to business. The sales cycle is typically a lot shorter on the business to consumer side of things versus the B2B. So again, service-based business to consumer franchises are the ones that ramp up fast. All right. How much does it cost to invest in a franchise? Next question here to address, and this is again another one that the answer is it depends, and it's a wide range. So low-cost franchises are going to start around $50,000 all in, to get that business going. Then you're also going to have businesses that are going to be upwards to $3 million. That's one, there's a lot of daycare franchises or education franchises that you have to invest in real estate and build out and construction and equipment and inventory and a lot of different things that are going to be ridiculously expensive. To be honest with you, the majority of franchise companies out there are going to range from $100,000 to $250,000 all in for a typical investment. And when I say all in, that's your initial franchise fee, That's the startup costs associated with putting your business all together, the working capital to get that business off the ground up and running, that you're marketing and employees and all the different things to get that business going. So all in expenses, $100,000 on the low end for some of those home-based or commercial industrial-based service businesses, up to about $250,000 for most of these light retail type of franchises. So, and again, that number doesn't include your personal living expenses or any debt service if you were borrowing money to get that business off the ground. So you would obviously make sure that you have the reserves to pay your personal living expenses while your business is getting up and running off the ground. Okay. So on the topic of what does it cost to get into a franchise, the obvious question that follows that is what are the financing options that are available and out there for potential franchisees. And so I always like to use the comparison of going shopping for a home. So if you're looking to buy a home, typically the first thing you do is you go into your bank and you meet with your the mortgage representative there and say, hey, we're looking to buy a home. They'll do an analysis with you to see what your financial resources are, where your assets and liabilities lie, what your credit looks like, and then they're going to be able to tell you what your options are. And okay, if you're looking at again, what that number is going to be is going to really depend on what your resources are, what your options are. So typically in buying a franchise is very much like a home. 20 to 30% down is usually what's required to get any type of conventional or SBA type loan. So I always use the higher piece just to be a little more conservative, 30%. Plan on a 30% cash injection. You may be able to get in for 20%, but plan on 30. And so, again, a $100,000 investment doesn't mean you're writing a check for $100,000. You bring in $30,000 to the table, and then you can finance the $70,000 through different options out there. So what are most people doing for that 30% cash injection? The first piece is, just pulling cash out of your checking account or stocks, securities, things that you have liquid funds available to use for that piece. The second piece, it's something that most people aren't aware of until they start looking at business opportunities, but it's a program called the ROBS program, ROBS, which stands for Rollover for Business Startups. And you're able to take money from your IRA or 401ks from former employers, and you're able to roll that into a new corporation and invest in yourself, in your business, without paying any taxes, no interest, no penalties at all. So it's not like taking an early withdrawal or distribution where you're paying all these high taxes. This is actually, instead of taking your money and investing in a mutual fund, in a Merrill Lynch fund or, Fidelity fund, whatever it might be, you're actually investing in, Roberts Enterprises or whatever the corporation is that you set up. And then you're able to use that money for your cash, for your working capital, for any part of your business startup. So it's a great way to avoid having to pay debt service or take on additional risk, on a loan. But it's a great way to invest in yourself, in your business. So I'm not the expert in this. I would introduce you to the people that are. There are companies that specialize in this. It has strict compliance requirements that you make sure you adhere to, so you are all IRS compliant and all that. So, but again, I've been working in this industry for 15 years, helping people get into franchises over this time period. Over the last 15 years, I'd say that probably 70% of the people I've worked with have used the 401k rollover for either a portion or for their full financing of their businesses. So very popular option out there that you might want to learn more about if you're serious about franchise ownership. Third possibility always is finding a partner. If you're light on funds, bringing in a family member, bringing in an associate or a partner is always an option as well. Okay. From the loan options, the great news is that banks love franchises, and that's because they provide the franchisee with a proven system, with a process, training, support, processes that work. So banks look at that as absolutely reduced risk, much higher percentage of success with franchise businesses versus independent mom and pop companies that are starting up. So banks are very eager to loan to franchisees because they know the likelihood that they're going to get paid back in full is very high. The SBA loans are definitely the primary source that people go to for the funding. Home equity lines of credit is another way. I'm working with a gentleman right now that just took out a line of credit in his home that he's using for his funding for his franchise. A margin loan against a brokerage account, another way to capitalize on some of the equity you may have out there in the market. But then anyway, there's a lot of different ways that you can come up with the options. And again, this is something that I would introduce you to the experts who specialize in this. They'll analyze your situation and give you guidance and recommendations on things that you might want to consider. Okay, so what will I do every day as a franchisee? This is the next question I want to address here. Most people are always curious, okay, if I buy a hair care franchise, a Great Clips, does that mean I'm going to be cutting hair and washing hair? Absolutely not. If I buy a Molly Maid franchise, am I going to be out there cleaning toilets and scrubbing kitchens? Absolutely not. So again, it all depends on the business that you're getting into, of course. But I kind of break it down into three different categories. There are businesses that are owner-operator, which is where you are primarily the person that's chief cook and bottle washer and really leading the way in every shape or form with that business. There's the executive owner model, which is more, again, daily oversight of the business, but you're not involved in every aspect of the day-to-day. You might be managing a manager and other employees that are out there doing this, but it's a little bit more of a CEO type role and not as much of the owner-operator role. And then the semi-absentee owner, that's one where, in this case, most people keep their job or have other business opportunities or ventures they're involved in, and they buy a business that is 100% manager-run, and they're putting in, some oversight, throughout the way here with their business. So we want to talk about each one of these here individually for just a second. First one is the owner-operator, and give you an example. So Budget Blinds is one of the greatest home service franchises out there. They've got 1,000 units here in the U.S. It's been one of the best opportunities. Unfortunately, territory is so limited with this that I'm not able to present it very much anymore to people unless they live in some different areas where they're fortunate that they have not come into yet. But anyway, the whole point here is that this is a business where it's typically owner-operator. You as the owner are both the owner of the business and the general manager. So you are the main point of contact for this business. You are personally connecting with the customers, visiting them in their home, consulting with them on what their needs and wants are with their business. You're working directly with your installers that are going in, installing the product. You're working with your vendors and you're ordering the product. You're executing your marketing strategy. You are running that business. As your business grows, you're able to add in additional layers, in here. But as the owner, somebody has an issue, they're going to be calling you, your customers, your employees, your vendors. You're that main point of contact and that main resource there. Okay. The executive owner model is a little bit of a step above that. Again, your role is the owner and the CEO, not the owner and the general manager, but the owner and the CEO. So you are, of course, still involved daily with the business. You're present, visible, to all of your employees and accessible and available to both customers and employees. However, your manager is generally, the person that is dealing day to day with the scheduling, with the technicians, with the communication with your employees, and working with the customers. You're working more again on the strategy, the marketing, the financials, that type of thing, and managing the manager. An example of this is a company called ServPro, which is a home restoration, water restoration after floods, fire damage, things like that. ServPro comes in. does the the cleanup after those types of disasters. But again, the owner is building a scalable business while their manager runs the day-to-day type operations. Okay, that's an example of an executive owner model. And then the semi-absentee owner model, Supercuts is a great example here. If you walk into a Supercuts anywhere in the country, you're never going to see an owner. The owners are not in their salons. Most of them have other careers, other jobs, or they're out enjoying their second home in the flexible lifestyle. This is like a 10 to 15 hour a week commitment. Most of the owners, again, financial management is the biggest key here, the executing of the marketing and the management of your store managers. Most Supercuts owners or this type of a semi-absentee model, own three units or 5 units or 7, as they build and grow. Your time per week doesn't go up. The more units you have, you still do the same thing, but you're leveraging it over multiple stores. So semi-absentee is a great model for a lot of people to invest in while they're still working. Build 2, 3, 4 stores, and then once you have the revenue to replace that income and lifestyle that you have from your previous career, you leave your career. Now you go into full-time business owner role, but it's again still a semi-absentee, and you've got your business operating and you're running it, and you don't have to have that job anymore. Okay. A couple other questions I want to cover here. I know we're coming up on 45 minutes here, but one question I get asked all the time is, what's the best franchise out there? What's the hottest? What's the best? Again, I know I've been saying this a lot today. It depends. It's similar to asking the question of, what's the best restaurant in town? And again, that's going to depend. Do you like steak? Do you like seafood? Are you vegetarian? I'm not going to send this vegetarian to the steak restaurant that I think might be the best. So you've got to ask questions. You got to figure out exactly what you really want, and that's where you really need guidance. Okay, so just going online, start looking at things, it becomes very confusing very quickly in terms of what's the best opportunity for me. So, what I do when I work with people is go through a process of identifying what these key factors are, the key business characteristics that are most important to you. Do you want to be an owner-operator? Do you want to be a CEO, executive owner role, or are you a candidate for the semi-absentee models? Well, that's going to depend on what businesses that you're going to look at based on what role of the owner is. What type of capital do you have to invest? Can you look at those businesses that are 250 or above per unit? If yes, that's going to open up another again, vault of opportunities. If you're focusing on businesses that are $125,000 or less, then that's going to, again, push us into a direction that's going to provide franchises in that opportunity, in that price range. And again, there's no correlation to how much you can make versus how much you invest. There are, some of the best service businesses are $125,000 investments that are providing incredibly high, return on those businesses, depending on you as the owner, what you do with that business model and how you grow it. So don't think you need to be in that $250,000 to $500,000 investment range to make $250,000 a year. Then we also talk about location. The brand you might want isn't available in your market. It might already be sold out and not available there. Or employees is a big piece too. Are you comfortable working with blue-collar employees? Are you comfortable working with entry-level employees? Are you comfortable working with white-collar employees? Do you want a business with no employees? Are you tired of managing people and you want to have a business that's just you? Again, these are all things that help us, narrow down the, that big pool of opportunities and bring it into, more of a, refined category that helps you get businesses in front of you that are a great match as opposed to ones that aren't. The industry, we talked about brand maturity. Sometimes people say, well, I want to be with a company that has at least, 100 units and is growing. Well, sometimes that's great because they've been through a lot of the growing pains and other things. But other times is, well, the best areas are already sold in an area. In Grand Rapids might already all be sold. I've got to look at going outside to, Holland or, some other markets that might not be as convenient for me, but it might be right for you. And then there's other newer concepts that are just growing, and you might be able to get the best territory and be one of the first movers if you're comfortable with working with a company that is a little bit less mature than some of the more experienced ones. So these are all things we go through, in terms of helping narrow that down. So as I mentioned before, there's over 3,000 franchise brands. The whole goal here, where I am at FranChoice, we have two people that all they do every day is screen franchise companies. They review their FDDs, they validate with their franchisees, they evaluate the franchisor, and they put together the best of the best franchises for us to share with our clients. And so, again, we talk about Molly Maid in the cleaning industry. There's 15 franchises in the cleaning industry. 10 of them aren't worth a dime, in terms of what they have in terms of the resources, the training, the marketing systems, all the different things that you as a franchisee are paying for and you value. So I'm only working with those best of the best, the A-plus opportunities that have the real strong franchise experience, that have the proven track record, that have the financial resources, that have the training and support and all the things in place. So it's getting you connected with the best of those franchisors that are out there. Okay. So just to kind of get towards some of the final steps here, I know I value your time and told you 45 minutes. I know I'm a little over. How do you investigate a franchise? Well, there's a very, very structured due diligence process that each franchise company is going to have in place that they're going to take you through, because just as much as you're looking at the right fit for a franchise out there, they're looking at you to make sure you're the right fit for them. The last thing they want to do is award a franchise to somebody who's going to come in and not execute it properly or not have the financial resources to get it done, because a failure for them is a big problem to overcome. They only want to bring in people that are going to be successful in their system. So it's a mutual evaluation process, but it really looks something like this in most cases. Initially, a foundation building. They want to get your understanding of their model, the role of the owner, what it is they do, how they do it, how they differentiate from the competition, all that stuff. They're going to cover through a series of webinars and discussions with the franchisor to begin with. Then they're going to send you their franchise disclosure document, the FDD. I've mentioned that earlier in this presentation, but the FDD is the document that you'll review with the franchisor as well to understand the role, between the franchisor and the franchisee and the relationship there. A lot of the financials are all shared in that. Unit economics is a buzz term you'll hear in franchising, but that's an individual unit. What does it cost to get one started, and what is the potential return to come out of that? They'll walk you through that process. Validation, that's the talking to the franchisees. After you've learned all this stuff from the franchisor, now you get out and talk to the franchisees. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your investment. Tell me about your return. Tell me about your day-to-day tasks. Tell me about your employees. Tell me about, what keeps you up at night. Tell me about what your goals are. You go through that process. Then that's where you really understand, like I said, the unit economics of the business based on their experiences. And then the final step is a meet the team day, or discovery day as they call it. Franchise companies bring you into their headquarters. They want to spend time with you, look you in the eye, shake your hand, break bread with you, and say, is this the person we want to be in business with for the next 10, 20, 30 years? And for them, it's like I said, it's for them the mutual confirmation, and for you to say, is this the people I want to have behind me to train me and support me and be my partner in my business? So typically it's about a 6 to 8 week process to go through this due diligence process. They're going to have structured calls each week. They're going to take you through this process, and like I said, they're evaluating you. They want to know, can they follow a process throughout the due diligence process? If they can, there's a good indication that they're going to be able to follow a process as a franchisee. If they can't even follow the process on the front end of the discovery process, then this isn't somebody I want in my system that's going to, they're not going to be able to follow the process as a franchisee. So, like I said, it's a very mutually kind of a mutual process that you go through with the franchisor. All right. In terms of the next steps, what I want to share with you here is what I do with my clients that I work with. The first thing I would do is hold an initial interview with you, get to know you personally. I have you complete an online confidential questionnaire. It tells me a little bit more about your personal and professional background, answer some questions about business ownership and some of those characteristics that we talked about. After we've done that initial get-to-know-you conversation and the questionnaire, then we schedule a consultation. And this is generally about a 60 to 75-minute phone conversation with you and I, where we go through what it is that you're, again, all those business characteristics that we've talked about. We want to identify those, understand what's most important to you, and we develop a model that outlines here's what we're looking for, whether it's a business that ramps up fast, or one that's a semi-absentee business, or one that has limited number of employees, or works only with entry-level employees, or all those different things we talked about. We answer those questions through that discussion and put together a model that outlines what it is that we're looking for you. Then I go out to the marketplace and I start to work with franchise companies to say, all right, I've got a candidate. Here's what their model looks like. Is your territory available in this market? If it is, then great. Then I make those introductions to you and I say, okay, Joe, here are the franchise companies that are a great fit for your model, that are available in your market, that are excited about you as a potential franchisee in their system. And then you get started with the due diligence process with each of these companies. I meet with you weekly to review what you're learning, what you're liking, what your red flags are, formulate questions for your next call with your franchisor, so that you can go through this process and fully understand what it is you need to know to make an educated and informed decision. A couple things you should also know is that my services are 100% free. You never pay me a dime throughout this process. Doesn't mean I work for free. I get paid by franchisors. So if you buy a business that I refer you to, they pay me a commission. It's very much like a marketing cost for them. It's very much like being a real estate broker. We used the real estate example before. If I'm showing you a home, the seller is paying a commission to the agent that brought the buyer to them. Very common in the franchise industry. Okay, so I do work nationwide. I live here in Michigan. I work mostly in Michigan, but if you are looking to relocate to another area or invest in a semi-absentee model with somebody else in some other area, I can work with you nationwide as well. And you'll only work with me. I don't have associates or assistants, things like that. It's me. And you get my 15 years of experience and that to help go through your process. All right. So my contact information is attached here. I did send you in the email for this meeting all my information there as well. I would love to chat with you here after the presentation to learn more about you. I do have my phone number, my email, my website. Like I said, no cost, no obligation, just good, solid franchise advice. 5-minute phone call. We can determine if it makes sense for us to talk further. But again, thank you very much for joining me today. Sorry for running over a little bit here on the time. But thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you individually if this is something that you're serious about taking a deeper look into. I'd love to help you. Take care, and thanks very much. Bye-bye.